I think the one thing that became illuminating this year is the role of police unions and how a lot of these changes must be enacted at the state level. What a lot of people don't realize, I kind of feel like time is flat, right? So 100 years ago in 1919, you had the Red Summer and violence was so bad. I mean, you had these violent white aggressors who would just come rat-a-tat-tat in black cities all across the country. And it was so bad that cities had to set up these councils. And it was like, yeah, it's okay to beat a black person or to shoot a black person, but you got to be wearing a badge while you do it. So for people who don't understand the history of white supremacy and law enforcement, learn a little bit of American history, and they might. So when we look at it through that lens, Brittany, you as an activist who are on the ground doing this work, I have been with you on the ground, witnessing you doing this work. Like, how do we educate people and inform people that this is actually a problem? It might not impact you, but this is actually a problem.
You know, it's interesting about the way privilege actually functions. Privilege convinces you that a problem isn't a problem simply because you haven't suffered from it. So inconvenience can feel like oppression. This is what we have seen from anti-maskers, right? But what we also need to do, those of us who believe fundamentally that Black lives do matter and should be treated humanely, is to educate ourselves about what always happens whenever we talk about power shifts and power struggles in this country. People who are bothered by the basic fundamental idea that Black lives matter are bothered actually by their fear of what happens when Black lives really begin to matter in policy. Because if Black lives actually begin to matter, folks will start to worry about what happens to them because their power has been dependent on Black lives not mattering. So it's just as important as we educate other people for us to be real with ourselves about the work that we're actually doing. We're not just talking about putting some officers in jail. We're not just talking about recycling a carceral system that harms all of us, especially marginalized communities. We're talking about a fundamental shift in power that actually empowers all people instead of just the wealthy, often white, often male, often cisgender and heteronormative few. That's what we're talking about here. That's the work that we're doing here. Police unions are certainly not just a part of that, but they uphold that kind of power mismanagement, right? They kind of uphold these ideas that some people are above the law and other people are subject to an unequal administration of the law. So we're talking about a power shift. And the clearer we get on the fact that that's our work, the further we can go, the faster we can get there, and the more we can stop spending our time trying to convince people who will remain unconvinced.
Right, exactly. So that might be a waste of time. I want to bring in Tremaine Lee. He's an MSNBC correspondent and host of the podcast Into America, and also happens to be one of my oldest friends. So Tremaine, I'm happy to have you on the show today. And you are somebody who has covered this story since its genesis, since its inception. You and I have been on the ground together. We were on the ground in Florida around the time Trayvon Martin was killed. So I want to ask you, as someone who has covered this story for nearly a decade now, what were some of the things that you noticed this year, and why do you think this year was so different?
Tiffany, thank you very much for having me. Congratulations again. I know I'm a few weeks late, but congratulations. You know, it's been interesting to see the maturation of this process, born from so much pain after the killing of Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman gets off, to see it kind of get full body during Ferguson and the killing of Michael Brown. And then we saw George Floyd, and that cross-racial kind of demographic that we hadn't seen in the past actually started to swell. There was a moment during the summer when support for Black Lives Matter hit an all-time high, like 86%. But I also want to look at the bigger picture here, and you think about who the actual allies are. There's a story I heard from Cori Bush, where she's a Ferguson activist, a nurse, a minister, and she finally gets elected to Congress. She goes to Washington, and she has a Breonna Taylor face mask on. And some of her colleagues think her name is Breonna Taylor. Now, what does that say when colleagues in Congress will see a Black woman in the halls of Congress and think her name is Breonna Taylor? You wouldn't accidentally just trip over the name of Breonna Taylor. What does that say about the heft of the broader movement and allies perhaps in Congress? And then we think about all the progress made over the Obama years, when we had the push for consent decrees, which was a tool really to hold police departments accountable. And Jeff Sessions, his literal last move out the door was to blow up the entire process. And so while there needs to be change on the state level and certainly support from Congress, President Joe Biden could, by executive order, reinforce with a memo the consent decree process. But to see the process grow, but also let's think about this. What happens when you finally do have that support and you have millions and millions of dollars flowing in? There is some real concern among Black Lives Matter chapter organizations that what was supposed to be this decentralized movement with no real leadership has now actually seen power concentrated. There's a PAC been set up. There's this global effort set up. There's this grassroots organization set up. And there have been 10 chapters who signed a letter saying, hey, you know, what's up? What's up with some transparency? Not unlike SCLC and some of the other movements we've seen in the past. But it's kind of these growing pains. But again, to see those pictures from over the summer after the killing of George Floyd, folks from all walks of life coming out, showing that there is some support for some systemic change. But again, as the dust settles, will we retreat back in our corners? I think that's the real test. How does the movement in this maturation process really harness all the goodwill and the money and the support to make some lasting change?
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.